Yo, what's poppin'? It's your man Scorpio Mo.
It's your man C Boogie.
And this is the Run That Back podcast. And today, hold up, before we even get started, do me a favor, hit that share button. Please do us a lot. Hit the like button as well.
Comment.
Subscribe more than anything else. I appreciate that. And today, we are going to talk about, how do I say this? We're going to talk about the great, sometimes controversial, Aaliyah. More specifically, the what album?
The One in a Million.
The One in a Million album. This one should be interesting.
This should be very interesting because there's going to be, I assume, 2 or 3 hot takes about the artist, the album.
Yeah, it's stay tuned for this one. This is gonna be interesting. The Aaliyah album, One in a Million, up next. Let's get it. All right, right back at it. First of all, I just want to get into kind of like where we at with it. Give me the label. Give me the name of the second album. Because we're only talking about the second album. Just so y'all know, we're not doing the first album. We'll touch on the first album lightly, but this is all about the One in a Million album, right?
Exactly.
All right, cool.
This particular album was released on August 13th, 1996. The album had 6 singles from it, and this was, I'm assuming, before her death, was probably her biggest album.
Now, if you're talking about 1996, you're talking about R&B, then you got to talk about what was around in that time period. Hip hop and R&B, because to me, this is when the hip hop and R&B influence on R&B became stronger. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. On not, you sing an R&B record, the R&B hook on a. This is when you're infusing the drum patterns. We're really infusing hip hop into R&B opposed to R&B into hip hop.
Right.
I think this is the pivotal year. 96 is when you first started. Because you got to remember, 4 years prior to that was the 411, but we're just sampling. We're not really making hip hop beats and kind of like that kind of feel to me.
Right, because prior to this, as you said, like 4 years, rap was pretty much coming off the boom bap, or was in the middle of the boom bap era. You had R&B, which was, they were still pretty much separate from each other. You had R&B, and then you had rap and hip hop. And then as it got closer,
but I think hip hop, R&B, jumped into the hip hop realm with the hooks because they were already doing it, But here, I think it became pivotal. What it changed was now you had hip hop invading R&B as far as how you construct. You got to remember, it's 96, so there's.
So it's already
bad boy influences
is
there. Matter of fact, it's on top.
Right. And Mary's already infiltrated with
Mary's on
she's already
second, probably going on third album at this point. But you're looking at it's just the producers, like a lot of the records could go either way. And they're made for R&B singers, but a rapper could have easily just rapped on it. It could have been a rap song. And that's what I mean. These weren't really even samples.
Right.
It might have been sounds, but not necessarily samples.
Right.
And that was the energy and the time of her dropping this record. And you can hear the influence, and you can hear it when you play it. So with that being said, what was your first initial introduction to Aaliyah?
My first introduction was, I think, probably with everybody, was Back and Forth. Mm-hmm. That was the first song that I heard from her that I thought was really good. At that time, R. Kelly was producing for her. So that's when I first heard of her. Mm-hmm. Also, with that being said, I had a chance to meet her. This is when I was living in Pittsburgh. I had a chance to meet her in a hotel lobby of a building I was working at. Mm. And this is when I heard her first single off this album. And I had a chance to meet her, and I told her it was all right. I was like, first single, it's all right. You know,
This is the back and forth joint?
No, this is If Your Girl Only Knew. The first single off of 1 in a Million.
Oh, 1 in a Million.
Right. So this is the first single off of 1 in a Million. She was in Pittsburgh on some radio stuff, and I met her in the hotel lobby, like I said. And I was like, yeah, your single's all right. Also, real quick, 5 minutes later, I met Marsha Brady from the Brady Bunch. So other than that, what was your intro?
This nigga. Listen. Oh, so you know what? I think like everybody else, back and forth, probably Video Soul, something like that. 106 in Park was not yet. So through there, but you know, you gotta understand how big R. Kelly was at this time.
Yeah.
This is in between what?
Public announcement.
Nah, I would say this was in between 12 play and whatever was like. This was coming off of 12 play. I'm thinking. It might have been. I don't know. But whatever he is hot as fish grease. He could have touched, you know what I'm saying? He could have touched anything.
True.
So, but with that, I just felt like this dude's behind it, and you hearing this beat, and, you know, very tomboy. You got to remember, it's still, 4 years removed from TLC, so the tomboy girl thing was still a thing. It wasn't girly yet. Right. It was still tomboy girly. Right. You know, we came from girly. TLC introduced the tomboy girly, girl, and that's what you see in Aaliyah. This is still 2-3 years removed off of TLC. Yeah. So that look was still in. I don't think with Aaliyah's look, without TLC, you wouldn't have got that. You would have got her singing, but you wouldn't have got that image. Right. I don't believe. You know, the baggy pants and the thing over the eye, right. The whole, that thing, to me, that's, you know, you got to give it to TLC, and then from TLC, you got to give it to Bell Biv DeVoe. That kind of thing. Yeah, if you really want to talk about it. You know, but, so that was my first awareness of her, and then, you know, the album comes out, does what it does. We ain't going to get into the R. Kelly thing. No. But now, the second album, and I remember in between her first and second, she was doing an interview, and she was like, I'm getting Devontae Swing to do my album. And I was like, oh, Jones. You know, not knowing at the time, like, the producers under them. Right. You know, so I'm thinking it's going to sound like super Jodeci-ish. Right. You know, and it didn't necessarily did, because time I heard it, I heard the show, the after party, the hotel. And the re-listening to it for this piece that we're doing, I heard it. I was like, oh. So now it made me question even Devontae. Not question it, but saw what Timbaland's place was. Right. Especially with that album. Yeah. I was like, ooh. Even with the sounds and everything, and even with somewhat of the, you could tell the beginning of the beat selection, the beat playing, even some of the writing that Missy did. You know, you can tell what was done for Jodeci, what was done in conjunction with Jodeci. Right. You know what I'm saying? You could tell that whole basement crew, you could tell who was a part of it at that particular point. No, I agree. Right. I think her, I think for the time it worked. I will say that. Incredible production, songwriting, and great A&R helped this album tremendously.
Timing was everything.
No. Timing. You got to remember. Everything. So if you're talking about it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on musically. Jay-Z drops that year. A couple months before that, Tupac passes a month after she drops. Yep. I don't even know if it's even a whole month. It's a lot going on in 96, especially towards like the end of the summer, going into the fall. Hip hop, you know, I think it was moving into a dark place, and then you get this album from someone, I don't know if people were anticipating, I don't know if that's the right word, but trying to see what else was there. I think.
Yeah, it was definitely.
If she had something else there.
I definitely think it was I think it was the beginning of the future to a degree.
Knowing that?
No. I'm just saying, when you listen to her album, knowing now what you didn't know then, that was the beginning of the future of what R&B / hip hop was going to sound like. That was the beginning of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like I said, you had instances of it with Jodeci, just sounds, but the way tracks were crafted and the way the sound was on this particular album with Tim and Missy, that was the beginning of what we were going to hear going forward from that point on into the future.
Gotcha.
First single, If Your Girl Only Knew.
If your girl only knew that you was trying to get in me, what would she do?
This was written and produced by Missy and Timberland, who actually got a bulk of the release singles. But we'll talk about this one first.
I didn't know, because this was different than what you could see her growing up. Like, so I didn't know really what to take of it. It was a nice groove. The bass line was mean, like memorable. The backgrounds, like, I'm not mad. I wasn't mad. It's okay. You know, but you understand, I'm in the club at this time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I don't remember hearing it. But I don't know if that's a club record or anything like that. But I just remember the only time I did hear it was videos, and I don't remember hearing it in passing cars. Videos and radio. Solid record. Tone was a little deeper. The writing. That's what I noticed, because it seemed like this was her coming of age album, you know.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like this was her coming of age album. Like I told her, it's all right. It wasn't it wasn't a song that knocked me off my feet. It wasn't a song that would have made me buy her album. It was just like,
okay.
I mean, it's cool, but it's not like,
right.
You know, it was anything crazy. And like I said, that song was released on July 15th, 1996, so in the middle of the summer.
Here's the thing, man. And I only say it more now than I do, just because people bring it up and obviously are passing and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Aaliyah might be one of the most overrated female Black artists ever. Not ever strong. But it definitely for her era.
Okay, here's this. Before you go into your tirade about it, let's pump the brakes on that. Let's pump the brakes on that. Let's get through the tracks, and then we will have to continue the spiel.
But it's hard to get into because I want to talk about her. I'm talking about production.
Right.
I'm talking about writing.
Right.
Then when you talk about her.
Right.
Only thing I could think of is image. But I'm not. You see what I'm saying?
No. Listen. I got you. So let's move on. Okay. So the second single was "Got to Give It Up."
Got to give it up. I used to go out to parties and skip around.
That was released on November 4th, 1996.
It was wild shit. I don't even remember that.
Now here's the funny thing about this. "Got to Give It Up" was a cover of a Marvin Gaye song, "Got to Give It Up," and it had Slick Rick on the track as well.
When I reheard it, I heard it.
Cool. Also, it was produced by...
and Slick Rick had a hell of a verse in there, by the way, just so you know.
It was also produced by Vincent Herbert and Craig King. I don't know if anybody will remember this or not, but Vincent Herbert used to be married to Tamar Braxton. So he's a very well-known producer in the R&B, I would also say pop community, but he knows what he's doing. So that's who did that particular track for Aaliyah. Again, didn't move me. Didn't move me anyway. Like I said, Slick Rick was on it, but it's not like.
So let me ask you this: you get a track, and you get Slick Rick on it. What is it supposed to do with that track? Is it supposed to stay here, or is he supposed to take it up a notch or two?
Well, you would think with Slick Rick on it that it's going to.
No. Like if you
would think you would think that.
No, on this particular track, it did. I'm saying her.
To me, again, she's just. It was okay. It was just very even keel. She's like an even keel person. It did not too much, not too little. She was just there. I felt like she was just participating in that song as well.
She participated in all her songs. That same effort.
I kind of agree, but let's get on to the next one. The next one was 1 in a Million.
Your love is a 1 in a million. It goes on and on and on. You give me a good feeling all day long.
Now here's where.
Now that was released. Now here a real quick note. Got to Give It Up was released on November 4th, 96. 1 in a Million was released 8 days later.
That just
November
lets you
12th,
know.
1996.
That just lets you know that they didn't have confidence.
Oh, exactly.
But they had confidence in her because usually you don't get that. A third single after 2 suspect singles.
This is true. You don't get that. But 1 in a Million was released 8 days later. 1 in a Million was written and produced by Missy and Tim. Now, my opinion, this song was the best combination of their track, writing, and her vocal ability. Again, the track, the writing, and her vocal ability.
This nigga just said with a straight face, her vocal ability.
I mean that with no disrespect. I say her vocal ability because, listen, if your girl only knew, very Ride the Beat, Got to Give It Up, that was a cover tune. Slick Rick couldn't even say that. 1 in a Million was the first time that you heard a beat like Tim's, the writing of Missy with the full background and the way it was written, and Aaliyah actually singing something that was in her wheelhouse per se, meaning like her age range. She was a teenager at that time. So it's like everything came together for me, and I'm just speaking for me. That song is the epitome of their teamwork together for this particular album. That song. We got 3 more to go. All right. The next one, 4-page letter.
I'm sending him a 4-page letter, and I enclosed it with a kiss.
April 8th, 1997.
All right. Solid. So far, I'm telling you, like, when you talk about production team, writer, and producer, she had the best new talent at that time, without question.
Without question.
She had it. I just don't think she had it. I mean, all these songs, and I'm gonna tell you who puts me in the vein of could have happened, because there were at least one person at her the same time she came out. There was someone way before she came out, and there was someone after she passed that could have easily done them songs and would have had the same, possibly more out of it than she did. But we'll get to that. But I just want you to know, we're going down this timeline. So she had a lot of singles before she had the big one off the album, which is 1 in a Million, with the actual single.
Actually, 1 in a Million was a big song on the R&B charts, basically on urban radio. That was a big song. So it was a 4-page letter.
Okay.
The next song that came out was The One I Gave My Heart To. That was released on August 25th, 1997.
How could the one I gave my heart to break my heart so bad?
Now, that particular song,
Hold on, August?
August 25th, 1997.
So the album comes out in August 96.
Exactly.
They're still working. This is how you know an album is successful. Can you look up how many units it sold?
It did
So
over.
you just think about that. They're working an album for a year, which means they probably didn't recoup for a whole nother year, probably until 1998. If you're dropping the album in August 1996 and you're still releasing singles in August 1997, I should tell you something, you know.
Also, what you have to realize is albums back then were not like today. It's not like you put out a song, if it hits or not, then guess what? Next week, there's another single popping off. As he stated, this album came out in August of 96. So with that being said,
mind you, they switched second or third? They switched the second single, put out a third single, and 8 days later, like, they believed in her. Because there's no way that doesn't happen.
Yeah, because when the song come out, like If Your Girl Only Knew, July 15th, then August, September, October, November, 4 months later, her second single comes out. 8 days later, her third single comes out. Then, December, January, February, March, April. 5 months later, 4-page letter comes out.
Off the same album, mind you.
Off the same album. Then, May, June, July, August. 4 months later, The One I Gave My Heart To came out, which was written, actually, fun fact, was supposed to be produced by Babyface. Babyface was supposed to produce this song, but he did not. He actually had one of his colleagues, Daryl Simmons, produce the song, and a guy by the name of Guy Roche. But, real quick fact, Diane Warren wrote this song. And if you know anything about Diane Warren, she was the lady that everybody wanted a piece of. She did the big pop song. She did Aerosmith's Don't Want to Miss a Thing. She did Escape's, what was their song?
I know the song.
You know what song I'm talking about. She basically does huge pop songs. So this song was written and given to Aaliyah and produced by, like I said, Daryl Simmons, Babyface's colleague. That was August 25th. Her last single was Hot Like Fire, and that was on the B-side of The One I Gave My Heart To. Now, there's two different versions. Hot Like Fire was produced by Missy and Tim. Now, there's a version on the album, and then there's a remix version which had the video to it. That was, the final release was September 16th, 1997. So basically, a few weeks later, after The One I Gave My Heart To came out, that Hot Like Fire song was out, and then that was done for the run of the album. But I believe, I'm trying to look up now, I believe the album did at least 2 million.
But here's the thing, like, they had to believe, they had to buy out of a contract, right? From Jive to Atlantic?
Actually, no. Jive, they basically, it was just basically disregarded. There was no buyout.
You gotta remember, R. Kelly was still over there. I have a feeling I know why it was. There was a lot of money involved. There could have been, how can I say, that would have been jeopardized had they not released her and let her go. I put you that. And it wouldn't have been her money either. It'd have been some other people's money. And they had a cash cow over there at Jive, and they didn't want to mess that up. Because she could have blew the lid off a lot of stuff. I'll just say that. But So here's the thing: they work it for a whole year, right? Which is, I mean, usually that's people that singles are going platinum. That you get an album, you're dropping singles for a whole year. You'd probably hit superstar status. You talking about Usher's Confessions. You talking about all like the big records.
Yeah,
the
this
big
is old.
albums.
This is old school music industry type stuff.
This is still selling hard copies.
Yep.
This is still so. But just for me, I just don't. She just never did it for me. Like I never understood the legendary status. I just never understood it ever. Like even when I hear it, and I be like, it was cool. She was cool, but to me, the songs and the writing more specifically, it was bigger than her. Like to me, those records, every one that you just heard, could have been easily Janet Jackson. Easily. Like when all of it, the tone, like, and I think it would have helped Janet. I don't know what it would have, I can't see it not hurting her, but I know Missy is a super Janet Jackson fan. So when I hear the writing and I listen to it now, knowing that, I'm like, this is all the stuff that she would have did for Janet. Because that was her plaything. That was her demo to Janet, was her album.
I agree it was a demo. It was a worldwide demo for Missy and Tim. I believe that was a worldwide demo for them because prior to them working on this album, she was supposed to work with Jermaine and Puff. And that's who basically stayed with her when she initially started working on this album. But the Puffy recordings were scrapped, and Jermaine Dupri got 2 tracks on this album, but those songs really aren't worth listening
So if he did that, at that time was Usher was out? Was Usher
I'm sure Usher was out. 96? Usher was out, I think, in
No. I'm not talking about the first album.
No, I'm not talking about his first album. You're talking about 8701.
Make you wanna. That's the one that took off that Jermaine did.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because you gotta think, when did
Look it up. I don't think so. And here's the reason why I say that. Because Jermaine coming off that album is what took him to a whole nother level. That's the one that blew Usher up. When Puff couldn't do it, who they give it to? You see what I'm saying? So if Puff would have had it, they would have gave him more than you wouldn't have let a Jermaine Dupri single fly after Usher took off with Usher. Jermaine, pardon me, took off with Usher. Shit. I bet you. I remember where I was living. That's how I know it ain't true. I remember where I was living.
Okay, so here we go. Usher was released September 16th of 97.
See what I'm saying?
That's after. So basically, his album comes on the heels of her very last single. So her album campaign is done.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Usher's wasn't out yet for people to get the work. You know what I'm saying? To see what he was going to do with Jermaine Dupri. I mean, what Usher shit wasn't out that Jermaine did.
Well, that was the My Way album. So that had My Way on it. That was 2 albums before Confessions came out. So Confessions. Right.
No, this would have been Usher's second album.
Yeah, Usher's second album. But what I'm saying is that's the end of Aaliyah's campaign. So even when Jermaine worked on it, 95, 96, I'm sure he was working on Usher's album 96, 97.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It didn't come out yet.
Right, it didn't come out yet.
Because if that was the case, trust me, he would have got more than 2 joints. He would have got a single. He was on fire.
He might have got a single because I say he might have got a single because the majority of singles that were done for Aaliyah's album was Tim and Missy.
But there's no way
singles, they had
that
4.
If you're going to come off of My Way and they going to I'm just going to give you an album filler. Hell no. It's too big by then.
It's not like it never happened before.
It wouldn't, nah, unless it's just totally sucked, and I can't see that. Not at that time. He was on fire.
But back to you.
Yeah,
back to your point.
I just really feel like tone wise, like you give this the production, then the writing takes it up to another level, and then to me the artist, whether it's the tone or something, supposed to elevate it a little bit higher. And when they don't do that, you might as well have done the demo.
Okay, so
And it doesn't. She just does not add to the record sonically. She does not. She's just not that chick.
okay, so let's think about it like this. You say Janet, right? Janet had two of the best producers almost living, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Working with her from Control up to, Rhythm Nation, a few albums or whatever. So do you think, and this may be a sidebar real quick, but do you think Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis's production outshined Janet's vocals, or did they match? Or like was everything in the pocket?
Yeah, and at the time there was no Janet to compare Janet to. The problem with Aaliyah is that the sound you get now, you don't have a reference point before Janet of Janet. Mm-hmm. You have a reference point of Aaliyah, and you can be like Janet.
Okay, so you got somebody who sings, somebody who dances.
But even tone-wise, who before Janet sound like that, solo dance like that, we didn't have it. That's Aaliyah's, it's not her fault. But what I'm saying is I can pinpoint that to, you can't do it to Mary, you can't do it to Janet, you see what I'm saying? You could do it to Toni Braxton a little bit, because you're going to say Anita Baker. You see what I'm saying? You got to reference. I'm saying a little bit. Reference. Like, who can you, if there's no reference back to that mother person, then you like, and that's my problem. You didn't take it. Janet, even though she's the greatest singer,
right,
she did something else that no one else was doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the fact that I can reference this to Janet, then after her, I'm looking at I'm still thinking Maya's in Aaliyah's class. Maya's better singer than Aaliyah.
Definitely.
So you see what I'm saying? You're even outclassed by your class.
Right. But
then I'll take it a step further, and it's after the fact, but Aaliyah is a better singer and Sierra's a better singer and dancer than Aaliyah. So that's why I'm like, when does Aaliyah get this thing of people like she's the one? There's people after her, before her, better, and after her. I think it was a window. She had the hottest R&B guy, singer, and producer in the game. I think it was timing. Then she met the next wave of writers and producers, and she fit the wave, but it wasn't her. You gave that shit to Janet, it would have been 10 times better. You would have gave that shit to Maya, vocally, it would have been better. What did Aaliyah really have? But great production and great writers.
True.
No one's going to be like, let me see. Okay, sing a cappella for me.
Well, I think to combat that, that's why that song, the one I gave my heart to, was released to, quote unquote, showcase her vocal ability. That was a pop song. She did on that song what she was supposed to do. It wasn't a belty song.
She did what the demo probably.
But what I'm saying is, yeah, you're right. It could have been she does what the demo does, but she did not. It wasn't a belter song. She just sang it like she was supposed.
No, by that time, people are sold on her. You know, or at least by the time they dropped that single.
Because that's a whole other year later.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to realize what TRL is during that time. So visually, she is meeting the aesthetic of everything I want. She got the clothes, the fashion,
she's
the
coming
dancing,
up on the
looks.
Not only that, but I think it's the Tommy Hilfiger campaign.
Yeah, the Tommy Hilfiger stuff.
So she was one of the first artists to me that you were sold on everything else but her talent. Her talent came last. You were sold on this look. You were sold on the production. You were sold on the writing. Her face was out there. She's running around with a mogul. Right. She's associated with this other guy who's on the label producing her first album. Everything was bigger than the actual, her vocal ability. I ain't gonna say her music, because her music was big.
Right.
But I just feel like you can insert at least 3 other names, you really got the same effect. And that's when I feel like it ain't you.
But let's think
you
about
got great
this.
A&Rs, but it ain't you.
But let's think about this. With you saying all that, does that make her one of the first vibey artists? Like, oh, let's just catch a vibe with Aaliyah. I'm not looking for vocal acrobatics from her. I'm not looking for a heavy sound. I'm not looking for, anything crazy. I just want to catch a vibe with her.
Yeah. That is true. But that's also with Janet Jackson's what is the song she had with I think it was J-Lo in the video and they was having a dance?
Oh, That's the Way Love Goes?
That's Aaliyah's whole career. Think about it. Think about it. We're gonna do this, but we're gonna make a whole album with this vibe and
I can't
think and I know we jump into albums, but you think about Rock the Boat and you think about that record, the other single, the Janet. See, the light went on when I said that. He never thought of that until, that's how you know. When I said it, he was like, oh, I didn't even. Now we back to Janet again. Now we back to Janet again.
Wait a minute. Okay, but here's the thing. With That's the Way Love Goes, all right? Let's think about this for a second. Classic sample. Classic groove.
Okay.
So that encapsulates the vibe a bit. Rock the Boat. Oh, that's a vibe. Oh, that's a vibe too.
Tonality. So you mean to tell me now?
So you think Janet could have done Rock the Boat
and been bigger? Even in death, she would have been bigger. Even in God Bless the Day, and I don't mean no disrespect to the Hutton family and the Leah and everybody. My
this
people
man
in Detroit.
Thinks Janet Jackson could have done Rock the Boat.
I think she could have did everything Aaliyah did.
So you think Aaliyah could have done That's the Way Love Goes?
No.
Oh.
No.
Tell me why.
Let me not say that. I think she could have done it, but it wouldn't have been as big. It would have been a big urbanly. 106 apart. I don't know if she would have made it to Times Square in New York with the maybe because at that time maybe. But I just think she wanted to pull it off as big as she's Janet. Like I said, there is no blueprint before Janet on that. But there is a blueprint for this chick. With the eye, with the tomboy look. It was all from somewhere else. Janet, it wasn't a young chick before Janet that did anything Janet did. Not dancing, none of that. She was a one-on-one.
But also when I think about Janet.
And she wasn't the greatest vocalist. Let me be real clear.
We all know that, but Janet does have a last name. And that name is Jackson. And that name comes with
She had an album out. People know she had an album out before Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Yeah, it was called Dream Street. She was on Fame. We all know. We all know this. But Control was when Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis came in, crafted it around her, and then that's what sent her to the stratosphere.
And then she focused on dancing. It was a little bit different but you can't name a female prior to her.
Right. You're right.
She wasn't there. There's nothing to base that off of. That's what makes Janet stand out. It's not the talent. It's just that no one was doing that before. But Aaliyah comes out. And the first thing I'm thinking about, because people like, she could sing, and I was like, yeah, really? And they was like, but she dances. Like, well, we already had it. Like, I seen this, and you don't dance better than her. So I already seen this. I was like, I already seen it. It was just a hip hop beat, a solo artist, because at that time we're leaving from groups. SWV, TL, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. As a group, she broke out as a soloist with the tomboy look. but Mary was older. So here's this young girl, you know, without no Mary, there is no back and forth. I don't think. But the whole look is Mary, that part of it. That's what I'm saying. There was nothing original about Aaliyah. She took bits and pieces, and there was a window. Janet, there was a window, and she jumped in that window, and it felt good. It wasn't wrong. I like back and forth.
Yeah.
Spelled her name and all. Like, I like all this shit. It was fly.
Yeah.
You know, she was a little young, but she's growing, and the second album production is bigger. The songwriting steps up. Everything steps up, but she's still...
vocally,
it's real airy, real fluffy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I can hear Maya, Sierra, Janet, could probably think of someone else too. But those are the women in that time that could easily give those records to. You know, there was a rap artist that I'm not even gonna say the person's name, but they had a single out. It was a big single. They had someone demo it. He had a guy that was on his label that had a couple hit records. They tried to get him to do the hook. It sounded horrible. The demo was better. What I'm saying is, once you hear the demo, it's supposed that when an artist does it, it's supposed to take it up us. Even if it's a little bit, it's supposed to take it up. I can't see her doing it. I can't see her taking any record to a higher place unless the demo was horrible. And I'm not saying she's horrible.
No,
I'm just saying she can't. That ain't her, man. That ain't. I just when I hear, oh, Leah was the. It's got to be off a vibe, and maybe they feel too old, too young to be cling to Janet. They want their own version of Janet. That's y'all people. So we want our own version. We like Jay-Z, but the younger people like, he's cool, but we want our Jay-Z. We want a young, because I already know how old he is. He has kids. Yeah. I don't want to be, where's my version of that?
Yeah.
So maybe it's that thing. Because didn't Sierra get compared to Aaliyah?
She did.
All right, we're back to the last portion of the show. This is where we do our pros and cons of the album and how well do we think the album aged years later.
First and foremost, referencing back to earlier, the album sold over 3 million copies by July 2001. So, yeah, it was a very big album for that young lady, a very big album. So getting into, has it stood the test of time?
Now, do the pros and cons first.
Pros and cons?
Yeah.
Pros, without question, production, writing. Specifically, Missy and Tim. They held down the bulk of the single releases, so definitely a pro. There's another pro on there, I believe, just as a sidebar, Tretch was on the album as well, doing a song, which easily could have sounded like Janae could have sang it, but, I mean, KG produced it, so that kind of goes, but that's a pro as well. You go with your pros.
Off the hands, production. I mean, especially when you compare it to the first album. Production is just it's bigger, it's more fuller, and then to go on to the writing, like 4-page letter to one, like the writing was, you know, even though I say, like, I believe they wrote it, but I still think they wrote it for, I don't know, it could be for her. Let me not say that. It could be for her, but just the groove of it and the writing, Tim, Missy, what's the name right on that too?
Who?
What's the wrote back and forth and
R. Kelly?
No, not back and forth. Man, rock the boat. Static Major.
Oh, Static. If he did, he wasn't credited.
Okay, and I think that was a real thing too. I think I read something about that. He wasn't credited or whatever, and I think that's what made him get his stuff together. But just the writing coming out that Devontae Swing camp.
Yeah.
These guys were ready, you know, and this was their opportunity, and I think it went well. well. It probably benefited them just as much, or maybe even more than it did to her. You know, the world got to see what she was about. You know what I mean? What they could do.
Yeah, because definitely I think.
Cause think how much work came out after that.
Not only that, but just for this album alone, I don't think without the Missy and Tim contribution, this album is not, it is nowhere near what it is or what it was, because some of the other songs on there, it just weren't, they were basically album filler. There was a song on there that she had with a gentleman by the name of Tavarius Polk, who they actually kept his vocals on this song. It was called Never Giving Up. So it was kind of like a duet. Good song, kind of like your 90s vibe. Kind of reminds me of, I remember when we talked about like rappers and like Hot 16. It kind of gives me the vibe of, if you remember Alicia Keys' song Diary. The guy that sang on that song, his name was Jermaine, I forget his last name, but he got a deal, if I recall, off of that. It's the
same thing. It's the same thing with the Mariah Carey.
Oh yeah.
What's the brother's name?
Trey. Trey.
I
Is his name? I forget the gentleman's name, but I know his first name is Trey. But yeah, he sang backup for Mariah Carey, and he did backup he sang on Groove Theory.
It was actually a duet. And he was able to, and he got a deal just off that.
Yeah.
But that's my thing, like, so that's a real thing that happens. But what I will say is that I guess the timing, this album was the one that gave her star power to me. Prior to this, it was like, all right, it's like I said, I gotta look back and see if Janet was in between projects, because there's no way that would have came out and Janet. I just can't see it.
Well, let's see, 96.
That's the way love goes. So it came out before that.
But that was after what Janet was in Poetic Justice? That was after?
Yeah.
Okay,
no,
so
after.
yeah, so I mean, basically a lot of things basically it was a perfect storm. You had this album, you had her with fashion. After this album, she got into movies. There was just this album was kind of like the foundation, the cornerstone block in the building of that we call Aaliyah. This album was the cornerstone which allowed her to jump off into many other projects that we all know her for today. Comments?
But nah, that's basically it. I would just say, as far as how the album held up, it held up right. I made sure before we did this, I did my homework and re-listened to the album, and it holds up well, to be honest with you. So I think that's where people get confused. To me, like, you confuse good records with good artists, good writers with it's the artist. She had a hell of a team, hell of an A&R team too. So I think when you put a halfway decent singer with great producers and great artists, and the songs are well produced and well A&R, you pick the right team, you pick the right songs, then it's a winning formula. And I think overall, the album did age well. Not overall, it just did. Go back and listen to it whenever you get a chance. It's a solid album. It really, really is. I just don't think it's her. I think you can insert at least 3 other names and you would get the same outcome. But I take nothing away from the cohesive project in itself. It all works. So
yeah, I think the album has stood the test of time pretty well. You know, you can still put on 4-page letter.
If your girl only knew.
Yeah, you can actually still put on 1 in a Million, because guess what? Normani did Wild Side with Cardi B, and basically it was the drum track from 1 in a Million. There's also another guy, I I believe his name is Travis. He's a gospel artist that redid 1 in a Million, but from a gospel aspect, and it's fire. Even though it's years old, I would tell everybody, if you get a chance, go on YouTube, look that up. Fire song. But like I said, that one by Travis, the song that Normani did with Cardi B. What else from that particular album stands out? I mean, it's still basically the whole project still sits the test of time.
Nah, it has great features on it. It's one of them ones. I can't even front. As much as I think she's overrated, you got to give the album in itself respect. She did a thing, so a little over 3 mil.
Yeah.
Hey, you got to give it to her, man. It is still, to this day, 20-some years later, a solid album. And salute to her, man. Salute to the whole Hutton family. Detroit, I see you.
What up, though?
Yeah, what up, though, Detroit? And, you know, she had a famous uncle, Barry Hankerson. Yeah. Look up, you know, his thing, and you can see about him. She had Old Boy in her career for the second album. First album, pardon me, second album, she's introduced to Tim and Missy. Incredible album. Third album, she still got the writers. She still has the writers. You know, from what I understand, her and Missy and Tim and all of them fell out with her. A lot of people don't know that. So they weren't even on speaking terms, when she passed. You know, but, you know, I know that really touched her. So I would have been real. I got to look. At some point, we'll dive into the third album and we'll get into what was going on with that to rock the boat. So we just wanted to do a piece on Aaliyah real quick on this episode of Run That Back. And with that being said, man, Scorpio Mo and
C Boogie
signing out. Get it, got it, going. You know.
Run